Hello, Happy New Year, and welcome to Watchbox. Thanks for logging on. This is our first show of 2021. As ever, I'm Tim Mosso, your host, and we have a full slate tonight. We are going to be discussing watch collecting in 2021, value alternatives to the Rolex Submariner, and you will want these watches, and finally, watches that are in dire need of a redesign in this new year. All of that plus the largest number of viewer wrist shots that I have ever featured in one program. Jumping into the live chat box real quick, I see Eddie Landsberg first, Blue Shirt Buddha, Edward Ledden of Sweden, Adam Crossfire, Tim Queenan. We got Watches and Whiskey. We've got Richard Combs from South Florida, Mr. No Date, Mark T5493 from Texas, Sergeant 0331, Will S, Terry C, Baltimore Spirits Co. Dude, you're in this episode. And then we've got Wrist Royce, Marco B, and 121 Click Bezel. Mr. Alignment, we've got Edu Denel from Yucatan, Mexico. And we've got Marco B and Greg R joining Turkischer Meister from Turkey, Shea Bergers, 87, Devin M, and Elliot Drinks Water from Orlando, Florida, Dave Oppenkar, and Zin fans in the house. All right, let's roll into the watchbox.com, the people who pay for these pixels. The great thing about modern browsers is that you can open up another tab and you can browse as you watch. Keep me streaming, but the watchbox.com, this is where you're going to buy the watch you wish you got for Christmas. The holidays are over. Trade in the thing you didn't want for one you do, or even better, buy yourself the present that Santa missed. And viewer wrist shots, I asked, and you answered. Let's take a look at viewer wrist shots 1. Jonathan O celebrated the last night of Hanukkah in Krakow, Poland, with a legendary cult watch, Piaget's steel and salmon dial upstream limited edition of 100 pieces. Absolutely beastly. Love the menorah backlight. We've got Simon H, who flies without wings, or perhaps with a different kind of wings, in his Aston Martin with Rolex GMT Master 2 Coke bezel. Frank P, from the Tim Mosso Facebook group, comes loaded for bear with his double Patek Philippe Nautilus collection, and Rick R celebrates Christmas with his Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch Tintin. Bob R showcases his Stefan Kudoka 1, which came highly recommended on, where else, the Talking Time with Tim Mosso Facebook group, which brings me to Facebook. Join me on Facebook. It's my newest venture. We've got over 2,600 friends all talking about watches 24 hours a day. I do my best to keep up with all the topics, and I can post until my fingers are raw 150 to 200 times a day, and you will still have new thoughts for me to bounce off of and share. So this is a very active community that does everything we can't do in the discussion thread below these videos. Memes, videos, wrist shots, and of course active real-time chat after the lights go down here in the studio. Talking Time with Tim Mosso on Facebook. Now, watch collecting in 2021. That's my old set, pretty nice, eh? In 2021, we are going to see the elaboration of trends that started long ago, but I think they're going to come to a head this year as collectors focus more than ever on value and making their individual purchases count the most. All of which is to say, this is the year that polishing a watch finally becomes a 4-letter word, figuratively speaking. Now, this is something that grew out of the vintage movement, where ideally, a watch would always be all factory metal. Scratches and scuffs, even dents, were forgivable as long as the watch was original as it came from the factory without any diminution of volume, definition, or metal. The problem was a lot of watches were being improved in the pre-owned space. Vintage was one thing, and we got that you shouldn't polish those. But in time, collectors have come to prefer modern watches, used watches, unpolished, for the same reasons they prefer vintage watches unpolished. In a sense, it's only factory once. And even with the scratches and the scuffs, it is more Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, or Vacheron Constantin before some sort of aftermarket refinisher's wheel hits. Heck, a lot of folks now send in modern used watches for service at the factory and specify no refinishing. And I really think that's going to be one of the major drivers of collector interest in 2021. Watches that are available untouched. Whether they're perfect or not, I'd rather have the scratches and scuffs, and so apparently would you. meetups, and regional shows. This is a big part of what we missed last year, and trust me, I really missed it because we had a whole global slate of events planned where I was going to go on a grand tour and we were going to have cool watches and whiskey, watches and wheels, and watches and wings events. They didn't happen, and the COVID crisis is the reason. But in the second half of this year, we're going to start to see the tap slowly open. It'll be local at first, and then we'll see boutique level events, and we'll start to see, as we have higher levels of vaccination and herd immunity, that more folks get together to talk watches. It'll start amongst collectors or amongst vendors and a few marquee clients. But in time, I believe we will eventually get back up to the watches and wonders level, where we have an event like the one they used to hold in Miami, for example, or the one they used to hold in Hong Kong. And I do think that will be the biggest watch show or meetup that we see in the future. I think the SIHH and Salon QP and Basel World scale events are dead and gone for good. But I do think we'll see those local direct customer shows like Watches and Wonders. I think we'll see mono-brand events like the ones that, for example, Breitling have held in recent years and Swatch has held in recent years to showcase one brand or one company's new novelties in one place. And I think you'll see boutique level events where company-owned stores and major vendors bring in customers for a night of watches. So the big watch shows might be a thing of the past, but I do think meetups and watch events are going to recover in the second half of this year. Now, markups and wait lists. For some watches, I think they will extend in perpetuity. I don't see it getting any easier to buy a steel Rolex Daytona in 2021. But I do think for some marquee watches of 2020, we will see a loosening. And I think it'll start with the Lange Odysseus, which I know is already beginning to get encountered by customers in the boutique as unsold stock. That's not to say there are discounts or that it's overbuilt. It's just to say that it's no longer something that comes with a mandatory wait list at all doors. Many vendors now have the watch in stock. Again, probably not getting a discount. You might have to buy a gold watch to get it, but it's no longer something that they have to call the factory to make to order. I'll also say that the two-tone Rolex Submariner is probably going to be the first and furthest to fall from its aftermarket markups of 2020. This is a watch that costs $14,300, and we're seeing them right about $18,000 used right now. Compared to the markups on, for example, the Hulk, that's fairly reasonable, and I do think it will get closer and closer to retail, although it won't quite be retail. I think the used price of the watch will be very comparable to the new price of the watch in 2021. And on top of that, I think the black and blue GMT on the Jubilee bracelet will continue to flatten out a little bit, to the point that I don't think there will be a huge premium for these used. I do think the Oyster bracelet model is the one the market wants, and in a different color combination, it's the Pepsi Jubilee that the market craves. Now, I would also say independents are going to continue their streak. On many levels, independents are the answer to the question every watch collector has asked, which is, how do I get the most value for my money and the most relationship for my money? I want to know my watchmaker. I want to know the CEO of the company. I want to have a relationship with the brand that doesn't just end the second I put away my pocketbook. And with independents, you get the variety, you get the rarity, you get the bespoke, touched by the master feeling that a mainstream brand cannot offer. And here's the real trend, I think, of 2021. It's not brands like Moser and Grunefeld and F.P. Journe, which are already discovered and frankly quite dear in price. It's going to be brands like Lane, Ming, Kudoka, and Henschel, companies that let you get into an independent brand luxury watch, often extensively handmade and beautifully designed, for about the price of high-end Rolex and Omega watches. So you're going to see those mid-level independents continue to soar, and I really feel that will be one of the defining trends in 2020, mid-level independents stepping to the fore and increasing their notoriety. I will also say that value-priced watches are going to surge as the quality gap closes to the leaders. Now, this watch is going to pop up again in a few minutes, but just keep this in mind. That's a $3,500 watch that delivers as much functionally, if not more functionally, than a 9150, that is $9,150 Rolex Submariner, and we are going to talk about that an awful lot. So these are going to be the driving changes of 2021. Will there be surprises along the way? You better believe it. Of course, there always are. But I do think that the trends are going to be towards independence, originality, and value. And I don't believe that is going to change course. Jumping into the box real quick, we've got Fordson 999 joining from Hong Kong. We've got Burning Mr. B saying the trend for 2021 needs to be smaller watches, please. We've got JCB, not that JCB, joining in, and we've got Terry C, who's saying the Batman will become the Volume Sports Rolex. And we have 121 Click Bezel saying the Odysseus is worth the money. Hulk is great, but not worth 3 times retail. And we've got Addie Myers joining in from West Yorkshire, UK. All right, Watch Habit saying, never thought I would hear the words Hulk and reasonable in the same sentence. I'm not sure I would ultimately make that case. And we've got Tony Suave asking, Tim, what about Glasuta Original in 2021? As ever with GO, great watches, some segment leaders, but not a good advertising plan. It would take a breakthrough model and a real commitment by Swatch Group to advertise them at the same level as a JLC or an IWC or a Panerai. And I just don't see that happening because historically that is not how Swatch has supported the brand. But great timepieces and phenomenal pre-owned buys. We've got Simon Holt saying Happy New Year, Tim, crew, and all the folks. We've got Abdul joining in from Germany, Avi B, and Rich Buddy. We've got Akshay, New York City, joining in from America's right coast and my hometown. Okay. From Akshay, Tim, what are your thoughts on the new JLC Chronograph calendar? Is the piece worth the price? Also, can you speak to the finishing of the movement in this watch and service intervals? Figure with a modern watch service interval of 5 years, that's non-controversial at this point. The watch is nice, but it doesn't really add anything new to the discussion. While the calendar chronograph is new as a style to JLC, it's absolutely ubiquitous everywhere else. And if you look for watches that have the well-known Dubois de Pras flyback chronograph annual calendar module, watches like the old Maurice Lacroix Masterpiece flyback chronograph or the Ulysse Nardin Marine annual calendar chronograph. Those are watches you can buy for a lot less money, and to me they're more interesting. The JLC 750 series movements have never been attractive, which is why prior to 2018, JLC never used a display case back with those movements. Cartier did, but the movements looked ugly and austere. They still look that way. So while I love Jaeger-LeCoultre for some of the models it's made in the past and a few of the models it makes currently, the Memovox timer is very cool. I have to say that the calendar chronograph is one of the least interesting watches they make, and I would opt for the new 70-hour Power Reserve Master Ultra Thin Perpetual. That is just a cooler watch all around with a movement that was actually made to be seen. All right, jumping into wrist shots number 2, I asked, you answered. These are your watches on my box, starting out with Dylan L. and his IWC Pilot's Chronograph Spitfire, flying into the new year and taking wing. We've got Quentin J. of France, showcasing his stunning Torsti Lane Gelidus Guilloche. We've got, by the way, that dial, my God, that's real rose lathe guilloche right there. Torsti Lane, Finnish watchmaker practicing in Switzerland. Jeffrey M., Master Sergeant, United States Army Special Ops, joining us from Santiago, Chile, with his Glycine Airman Double 24. Very cool. Thank you for your service, Jeffrey. Abdul R. of Germany, he's in the chat box tonight. He's on your screen right now. Joins us with his newly acquired 1969 Rolex Datejust Thunderbird. Awesome shot, awesome choice. Marco S. from France, I'm happy to see him. Our second Frenchman of the night and the first to win a watch for free from the watch box. You guys really need to enter our contests. We do give these things away with his Tudor Heritage Chrono Blue. Looking good, Marco. Thanks so much for supporting our company. Okay, send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com to see your pieces on these pixels. All right, now, I'm going to talk about hardware. A lot of the features that I discuss on this show are themed, and while this one is themed, ultimately it's about watches that you can buy now for reasonable amounts of money and tremendous feature content. So, value-priced divers. I told you that watch would be back. I'm saving the best for last. Here's the thing, 4 reasons to skip the 2020 to 2021 Rolex Submariner. Well, it's a great watch, and if you have it, you scored. The bottom line is, Well, all of the watches I'm about to show you were launched in 2021. They will never be more relevant than they are, or 2020 I should say, they will never be more relevant than they are in 2021 this year. Because while Rolex sub waiting lists stretch to infinity, all of these watches from Doxa, from Ball, from Zinn, and from Oris can be purchased for fractions of the Rolex and offer almost all of the functionality and even a little bit more style in some cases. And I do think that collectively they embody the 2021 movement towards value. So, these watches embody the kind of features previously only available for thousands more, often from haute de gamme brands, and they do so without commanding extortionate pre-owned prices or long wait list at the AD. So, if the industry benchmark for a man's watch in 2021 is generally some kind of diver, and the industry benchmark for a dive watch is the Rolex Submariner, here are 4 watches that will command relevance this year and save you real money while being a ton of fun in the process. Starting with the new Doxa Sub 300, which looks a lot like the old Doxa Sub 300, which looks a lot like the 1967 Doxa Sub. All of that is intentional, but what's new now is that it's one of the best divers available for under $2,500. That's right. For the watches, you see it right there with the aquamarine dial and the full bracelet. This is a certified chronometer and 300-meter diver that you can score for $2,490 US bucks. 300 meters of water resistance, a beads of rice steel bracelet with a dive extension in the clasp, a COSC chronometer certification, a bezel with detent clicks worthy of Heckler and Koch, and the well-loved decompression scale ensure that this watch is a wash with both character and features. The full collection now includes 6 different dials, straps as well as bracelets, and it offers all of the traditional Doxa colors plus aquamarine as full-time offerings. In the past, some of these had been special editions. Again, full bracelet with any of those dials, less than $2,500. Yeah, you can save $40 and get the color-coordinated strap, but don't cheap out. Pass 4 small extra bills, get it on a bracelet, and buy the strap as an accessory. It only makes sense. Now here's the thing. On paper, this watch is 42.5 millimeters, which might make it sound a bit jumbo-sized compared to the 41 millimeter Rolex. But this watch is also only 45 millimeters lug-to-lug compared to 51 plus link-to-link on the Rolex across the wrist. So it wears like a cushion case, and at 13.4 millimeters, it wears fairly thin. Remember, the Omega Diver 300 meter is 13.7 millimeters thick, and this is thinner than that. Both of those watches can be cuffed. This could be your all-the-time watch. Maybe not with the aquamarine dial, but that's why they also have dark blue and silver and black, each one with a evocative name like Shark Hunter, Caribbean, or Sea Rambler. Now, this is a fantastic option, and it's easily the value leader on today's show, but Zinn's U50, also new for 2020, answers the prayers of dive watch fans who lack the beefcake wrists demanded by the cult watch Zinn U1 with its 44 millimeter submarine steel pressure hull. Okay, the 41 millimeter U50 is a gorgeous 500 meter diver with Zinn's U-boat steel, or U-boat Stahl, a steel used by Ballmann Voss shipyards to build modern German submarines. Like Rolex's 904L steel, the submarine steel is highly resistant to corrosion and degradation. Chemicals, salt water, neither needs to be rinsed off. It will not rust. But unlike Rolex 904L steel, the submarine steel is a harder steel. Whereas standard Rolex steel is about 250 Vickers, this is about 350, and it elevates from there. So sub steel is about 350. Add Zinn's proprietary Tegament carbon diffusion process, and that includes about 1,500 Vickers of surface hardness, and it penetrates a few micrometers, so it's not just a surface coating. It does have a little bit of depth into the metal. Even better, the hard black Tegament combination has a surface hardness of over 2,000 Vickers, backed by the 1,500 Vickers of the Tegament, backed by the 350 Vickers of the U-boat steel. All of which is to say, this is your watch if you hate scratches, but you don't trust ceramic, and I can understand. For $3,120, you get the full fat, full tegament, full bracelet, full hard black model that you see all the way off to the right. That's with all the options. Now you can get it full bracelet with full tegament for $200 less, and that would probably be my choice. It is also a proper tool watch. You'd be surprised how many divers don't have highly legible dials. This one is exemplary, and the lume is best in class. Take a look at that lume. It's absolutely blazing. My screen does it a disservice. I can tell you from my EZM 1.1 Zinn nose lume, and this watch gets some of the best the company can offer. All right, 2 value propositions, and now 5 propositions from you guys. Viewer wrist shots number 3. I present them with glee, and we start with Max L. I know he's in the box tonight because I saw Baltimore Spirits, and this is Max L of the Baltimore Spirits Company, ringing in the new year with Breitling and Cheer. You can't quite see his products in the background, but rest assured, they are there and they are delicious. We've got Quentin B., a regular on the Tim Mosso Facebook group, showcasing his Movado Kingmatic chronograph and pop art connoisseurship. Adrian B. keeps time in vintage style with his modern-day Moser Heritage Center Seconds, the unofficial Moser Pilot's watch. We've got Tom N. of New York, who stuns with his Vacheron Constantin overseas self-winding and his wife's 10th anniversary ring. Nicely done on both counts. And we've got Mehmet K., who shares the Tudor Heritage Black Bay that he purchased from the Watchbox. Thank you for trusting our company, Mehmet. Send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com to see your analog on my digital. All right, let's jump into the box and see what you guys have. Adam is saying Zinn is pretty cool, and we've got Toyota Mo saying, sorry, but those all look horrible. Hey, they're not for everyone. We've got a comment from Eric Bell, the UX part of the factory tour is unique. That's right, if you want the ultimate Zinn dive watch, get the damn UX. As much as I like the T1, the U1, and the U50, the UX really is the watch that has no equivalent anywhere by anybody, and it is proprietary tech from Zinn. I recommend it highly. I cannot sing its accolades loudly enough. The super cool oil-filled dive watch with effectively no lower limit in water resistance. And then right here we've got Burning Mr. B. Tim, what will be your 2021 purchase? Right now I'm leaning towards a collector car, but if it were to be a watch, it would without a doubt be either the Ball Engineer 2 Magneto S, the Patek 5235, the MIH watch, the original, not the Gaia, the original Ludwig Oxlin Paul Gerber model. And I'm a real big fan of the Resonance Type 3N, which though oil-filled is not equivalent to the Zinn UX. I'm leaning towards those. Guys, let me know in the comments if you're watching this thing, what kind of collector car should I consider? I'm open to almost anything except a truck. It's just not my thing. And then right here, we've got Abdul saying Zinn 903. His preference over the Breitling Navitimer, and that is true. As of the late 1970s, Helmut Zinn purchased a lot of stock and tooling from the last scion of the Breitling family, Willy Breitling, and for a long time, to this day, as a matter of fact, Zinn has basically built its own Navitimer-style circular slide rule chronograph. All right, jumping back into tonight's regularly scheduled topic, value in diving, or diving for value in 2021, Part 2. How cool is that? Diving on a wreck. I got to check that one off my lifetime list soon, at least once. Ball Watch. We talked about them briefly, but it's not a name frequently discussed on social media. But I've been clear about my enthusiasm for its products and the outstanding feature density of Ball's affordable watches. The Ball Engineer Hydrocarbon Original is an odd name for a dive watch, admittedly, but it has a sterling resume for that role. At 40 millimeters in steel and under 15 millimeters thick, this one addresses the fit objections often hurled at Ball's oversized models. The bracelet is overbuilt all the way from its double dive extension clasp to the 4, yes, 4 bars and screws fixing the bracelet to the case. When collectors ask me which company's bracelets compare best to industry standard Rolex, I answer that Rolex is the one that comes closest to matching the solidity of Ball's bracelets and not the other way around. High praise, but I've handled hundreds of both brands, and I can tell you definitively, Ball bracelets and clasps feel the most expensive and the most solid. I would also say that you want features. I want features. And come and get it. This watch has got him. COSC chronometer certification. Day date complication. We've got a sapphire capped bezel like a Blancpain 50 Fathoms with 360-degree epic lume. The dial is a sandwich-style recessed lume tritium tracer self-activated dial. If we go back to the lume for a second, you can see the dial itself does not need to be charged. It has replaceable tritium that phosphoresces on its own without activation. Pull it out of a dive locker a year later at night and it's still glowing. You get twin dive extensions in the bracelet clasp, as we discussed. Ball spring lock for hairspring shock protection. It's basically a cordon that frames the hairspring and prevents it from getting out of sorts or significantly displaced, which is one of the primary causes of inaccuracy due to shock. Spring lock fixes that. But this watch also has spring seal to lock the regulator in place and prevent shock-induced timing variation. That is significant given that this is a 2824 base. You still get the ability to secure both the hairspring and the regulator, so it is as good or better as a free-sprung watch. And of course, it's 80,000 ampere per meter anti-magnetic, which means it is literally 1,000 Gauss or mil Gauss anti-magnetic. You also get all aspect protection for the crown from a pivoting crown lock. It looks fiddly at first glance, but I've experienced a lot of these. They are very solid and they protect the crown from the head-on impact that shouldered crown guards cannot guard against. This engineer hydrocarbon retails for $3,199, but guys, I know you. You are shrewd negotiators and you understand how this industry works. I expect all of you to walk out the door with this watch brand new for around $3 grand, no more. It's a superb piece, and with apologies to Piaget, we move on to our last value diver of the night, though it's not our last feature of the night. Again, with apologies to Piaget and its Altiplano Ultimate concept, a watch I adore, that's a $400,000 watch. Oris launched the best new watch of 2020. Again, sorry Piaget, but this is a watch we can mostly buy. This is a timepiece, the Oris Aquis Caliber 400. It isn't just the best value in divers, it's a giant killer that resets the bar for the entire industry. Let's start with the basics here. Let's hold our full screen picture because it's pretty. Manufacture Caliber 400, can we pull it up full screen? It has a 5-day power reserve, a 10-year service interval, and it allows Oris to offer a 10-year warranty on the watch. The new movement is accurate too, with an unlubricated silicone escapement and 5-position chronometer style adjustment that allows Oris to claim at most -3 + 5 seconds per day of deviation. That's better than a chronometer. And Oris chose 2 mainspring barrels instead of a single large one in order to avoid the fast, slow tendencies of long power reserve watches with single huge mainsprings. They were paying attention here, and there's no compromise. It has a 28.8 beat rate, not the slower 21.6 or beat rate that we see on many vintage ETA movements in order to eke out a few more hours of power reserve. This is a conventional high beat modern movement. Now, the movement is also larger at 34 millimeters than the previous 25.6 millimeter unit, and the result is a broader caseback with a better match between movement and watch size. It's like the hand in the glove. It's a perfect fit. We have a quick release system that allows instant tool-free swapping, since the watch can be worn on either a factory strap or a bracelet. On a strap, it looks great. On a bracelet, it's a better value, but you can swap between them without any tools in the blink of an eye. The bracelet features screw-fixed removable links, a feature that you don't get on Patek Philippe Nautili, and it has a extensible diving clasp inside a bracelet frame that includes trigger release rather than a cheap clamshell. Again, there are no compromises here. Everything is as it would be on a $10,000 dive watch or more. Here's the other thing. The bezel insert is ceramic. The dial is applique index, and the feeling in the hand is of Rolex quality, even with the quick release bracelet system. But Rolex quality in a Rolex Submariner date costs $9,150, and this Oris costs $3,500 on the bracelet. Sure, you could save 200 bucks and get it on the strap, but don't cheap out. Get it on the bracelet and get the strap as an accessory. This is an incredible timepiece, a game changer. I'm not sure if it's a shot across the bow of Rolex or Blancpain with the 50 Fathoms, because even the 50 Fathoms, though it has comparable size, water resistance, bezel quality, and power reserve, doesn't have the quick release bracelet system or the value proposition, nor does it come with any attestation of accuracy. This is truly the best watch of the year by Oris, and I think it's going to be the best dive watch buy of 2021. Watches like this are going to change expectations for features and pricing in the mainstream luxury watch marketplace. It's going to start with divers, because that's the most popular category, but you're going to see it on pilots' watches, you're going to see it on dress watches, full spectrum, and I think this is where it starts. Okay. Let's take a quick look at the chat box and see what you guys are saying right here. We have Mark W. saying, I like Oris, but the first one I had, the crown came off in my hand, but this is nice and I'm sure well built. I've seen problems like that on watches of all price, right up to Audemars Piguet and Patek, so it happens. I wouldn't judge them on the one. We sell a lot of Oris on our AD side, and we haven't seen those kind of problems. We've got Alvin saying, Oris is such bang for the buck. Truly it is. And then right here we have Terry C. saying, Oris has dropped the gauntlet on Tudor in-house movements with this caliber 400. Yeah, and I think they've dropped the gauntlet on Rolex too. Well, I've seen PDFs from Rolex saying that in theory, a 10-year service interval is possible. The fact is Rolex doesn't openly advertise that anymore. They did early on in their 5-year warranty term, but the 5-year warranty, I mean, Rolex could match Oris by doubling its warranty. The question is, will it? It's not just a shot across the bow of Tudor. This is a threat, at least to the reputation of Rolex, if not actual sales. I don't think Oris is going to be stealing Submariner sales, but I do think that the smart money is going to Oris these days. Mark S. asking, will Rolex ever do a bracelet quick release? They really should. It's a way they could add value without fundamentally changing the look of the watch, which is always the most contentious thing when they redesign a watch. So I'm saying yes, they can, and I hope they will. And if they do, it should probably be on the Rolex that is most in need of a redesign, and we're going to talk about that next. And then right here we have Burning Mr. B saying, wow, this is a big way forward for Oris, with Tim coming out with that recommendation. I've always been a fan of Oris, but now I can say that they're not merely nice watches for very little money. They're class best and even industry best at that price point. All right. Boom, we've got Eric Bell, Smoko, we've got Watch Habit, Double R, Toyota Mo, Lucas Willen, we've got Tippy K, Michael R, we've got Speedy, and we've got a question, Oris by Hodinkee? Why not? Look, I've got no grudge against Hodinkee. They're cool guys, they write good articles, they're still a point of reference. I have a lot of admiration for them. Hopefully 2021 is the year we're on two-way speaking terms. That would be cool. Hodinkee, reach out. Okay, and then Pete's Timepiece Safari saying Oris crossing the border price line. You know what? At 3,500 bucks, I bet you can still argue a little bit of a discount. Okay, quick hits for 2021. Watches most in need of a redesign, and we're starting with that big name, the Rolex Daytona. Sure, a new clasp here, a new bezel there, updates have been consistent, but this is still fundamentally the same watch that rang in the new year on Y2K. If ever a Rolex watch were able to sell in spite of its age, this is the one. But surely, in terms of maintaining its reputation and the standing of the model, as a matter of good faith, a redesign is in order. It's time for Rolex to reset the bar and show not just that it can redesign the Daytona, but the Daytona can truly be a class-leading timepiece, not just a social media sensation. A redesign is in order this year, and I hope it will happen. The Patek Aquanaut 5167A. It's been a long time since 2007, and at the very least, this watch needs to get the 26330 hacking automatic caliber that now resides in the Nautilus 5711. This is a timepiece that genuinely needs a refresh, and I was surprised when it didn't happen on the 20th anniversary back in 2017. The time is now, and for the Aquanaut, this would be a great year for a makeover. The Lange case shape. Lange's new for 1994 case shape has become a liability. The company needs to be known for something other than discounts and beautiful movements, and a way to do that is to at least open itself up to more fundamental case shapes than Panerai. That's right, Panerai has more fundamental case shapes than Lange, which basically has 1.5, with the Odysseus being something of a modification of the Lange 1, the Zeitwerk, the Datograph, the Saxonia, the 1815, the Richard Lange case shape. There's nothing wrong with artistry in the shape, in the form, in the fit of the watch. It doesn't have to be all about the movement, Lange. You can afford not to be conservative. You've taken chances in the past on the movement of the Datograph and its high level of finish, industry best, on the Zeitwerk and its outrageous combination of jumping minutes, tens of minutes, hours, and constant force device. Now is the time for a revolution, and you can do it just by adding a few cases to the mix. Compared to engineering, computer-assisted modeling, design, and fabrication, a new case is the relative low-hanging fruit, and this is the year for it. The Omega Planet Ocean. Value is decent, and in 2016, we got the most recent redesign, so objectively, these watches are not old, but they are too thick. They are double cheeseburgers, they are club sandwiches on the wrist. And while the tech and the spec is outstanding for the price, the fact is, a lot of people who can wear the size in diameter cannot wear the thickness. And that's turning off a lot of buyers who are going to jump to a cheaper Omega diver or another brand altogether. For 2021, Omega, please, start thinning out your watches. You've shown us your technical prowess with the coaxial, with silicon, with the Matas chronometer, the master chronometer certification. Now we need thinner watches. And Blancpain. Again, 2007 was a long time ago, and while the 50 Fathoms remains something of a Cadillac in the dive watch segment, the fact remains that the watch at 45 millimeters is out of step with modern tastes, and the standard model has no display caseback, which at 300 meters water resistant, the watch should. Omega's able to do it on a 1200 meter Ploprof. Blancpain can make every steel 50 Fathoms with a display caseback. Keep the movement, the 1315 really needs no changes, but the watch should be smaller. Rolex has broken new boundaries and moved up to 41 millimeters. I believe Blancpain should move down to 40 or 41 millimeters in order to be more directly equivalent in size, take some sales from the waitlisted Rolex watch, even at its higher price point. A 41 millimeter 50 Fathoms would keep its classical style, high standard of finish, and historic imprimatur of innovation, while also providing a bit of a sales leech to Rolex, because a lot of folks are going to be paying markups to get the sub. Somewhere between the price of a Hulk new and a Hulk aftermarket, you find the price of the 50 Fathoms. And if it were 41 millimeters, I think Blancpain would be stealing a few more of those sales. Now, the Jlc Reverso. This is a big one, 90 years old in 2021. The problem, there is no identifiable core model. The Reverso is the icon of JLC, but what's the iconic Reverso? I don't know. Patek has the 5711. AP has the 15202. The bottom line is that Rolex has its Submariner no date. I don't know what the iconic Jlc Reverso is, but the tribute to 1931, unofficially the 80th anniversary Reverso in 2011, seems like a good place to start. The core model, the iconic Reverso, should always be in the catalog. It shouldn't be an on and off affair. Just as Patek and Rolex and Omega and AP always have their standard icon in the catalog, so too should this basic Reverso always be available. Get colorful. People loved the Reverso Rouge. They would kill for the 26-piece British Racing Green Reverso Vert. Bring this back. Colorful dials, full-time offering, and you're going to have a hit on your hand, regardless of what else you do for the 90th anniversary of the Reverso JLC. Guys, timmosso.com is a work in progress, but I'm going to be starting up podcasts, and I'm going to be starting them this week. So check out timmosso.com. We're going to have articles, we're going to have podcasts. It's all going to be exclusive content, and I'm going to publish a photo stream as well as content from my many media. Join me on Facebook, Talking Time with Tim Mosso, and don't forget to subscribe and comment below this video. Time out, Tim out. Happy New Year, and thanks for logging on.